Peace and love and welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning, or this evening, or this afternoon, whenever you're watching, or at nighttime. If you're seeing this by recording, oh, if you could only hear what I'm hearing through my headphones right now, the live birds outside, lots of them all on the commute at itself. I'm going to silence them down. Thank you for being here this morning, and good morning, everyone. Peace and love to you all from the coast of Maine. Peace. Today, we're going to continue on in the Yoga Sutras, as I think I'm going to try to do every Wednesday. Because why? Why bother with these ancient books that many of you have never even heard of? Because the practical techniques of meditation have largely impacted my life for the last 40 years. And we're coming to the end of book 1 here, and we're about to begin book 2 at our Tuesday class. They're effective. That's really why I'm talking about them, because they do what they say. And what they say is what we're going to talk about today. The important doing part is what we're going to talk about today. In Yoga Sutras 1.50 and 1.51, and I have my notes in front of me here. All of the practices of meditation that we've been talking about here at Not Church for years now publicly, they all have to do with quieting the mind and finding the space in between the words as you chant, or as you contemplate an object. You get past all the thinking about the object and you lose language and you fall into breath. And in breath, there's this space between the words where there's quietude, I call it, or silence, or stillness, or the access to the oneness, the I were in, I see God, God sees me, as Meister Eckhart wrote. So we're going to talk about today the result of this kind of practice, the aim of this kind of practice, and the aim is enlightenment. And the funny thing about enlightenment is that it has no ego to it. That's what enlightenment does to a person, is that in the moment of awakening, whether it's a flash or a flash with an ongoing experience, it leaves a person non-attached to their human self, to their egoic self. It doesn't stop the ego from existing. It just changes one's perception of that, and therefore of everything there is. So today we're talking about what Patanjali calls the seedless samadhi, the seedless enlightenment. And I'm going to throw a word at you here this morning, a couple words. Nirvichara samadhi, that's what he calls it. It's this high level of samadhi where it's non-reflective. There's no self present, weirdly, to experience the samadhi itself, because the egoic self cannot be there when it's happening. It's this, and this happened to me on the highway, that I've told you the story of the accident and the guy and the flash that blasted me into no thingness, no selfness, and yet I was all self. I was light itself, and in that space, I could only remember the experience of it after I was in it. I mean, well, obviously, I could only understand that it happened after I was in it, in these pulses again and again and again. Nirvichara samadhi, non-reflective. So in all other meditative states, we're sort of reflective. So we've got our mind is our mirror, and even as we're chanting, or we're using our imaginations to hold light inside our hearts, or imagine white light around us, or we're using some kind of music, there is always a egoic self present, reflecting, even in the spaces of silence. There's, as soon as your mind comes back online again, which happens all the freaking time, you're in your meditation state, and then suddenly your mind's wandering off, and you're like, oh, come back here again, into the space. And in the space in between, where the beginning is, there's still a seed of self. And in seedless samadhi, there is no seed of self. All of the mind stuff has vanished, become immaterial. And it just wipes out all other impressions, all other past and present impressions. The impression of seedless samadhi wipes out every impression There's no glass here. The light passes through the glass. If there's glass there, it passes right through it. It doesn't even change the shape of the light itself. The whole book one describes the mind stuff, the thing we've talked about, uh, how to repress them, how to deal with this, how to stop the mind stuff. That's the meditation, various meditation techniques. And the third part of the book, the very end of the book, these last bits of sutras, that this is the wave that overcomes all of it, all at once. And then one sees oneself as one is after the experience. During the experience, there is no self. There's the capital S self. But afterwards, it leaves this residual knowledge that it's like Shakespeare was talking about all the world's a stage and everyone an actor upon it. And this is the realization of one's full actorhood, not because one's recognizing the props and, like in the person who's singing over there, or listening to the song of the actors. I'm thinking of a musical. I'm thinking of Les Mis, okay? Because we were just talking about Les Miserables. Um, but when one understands that one isn't even the playwright or the director or the producer, that even though one's an actor on the stage, there's a much bigger show that one is permanently a part of, way beyond the actor self, way beyond the knowledge of one's own existence on earth. There is a place beyond that. And these techniques that Patanjali has been talking about in the Yoga Sutras are tools that are useful and effective. And I know because I've been practicing them for 40 years. I read this before I went to divinity school, and I hid in the church, and I continued to practice with these tools in my asana yoga, my hatha yoga, my ashtanga yoga, all these words I'm throwing at you. And we're going to come to some of those words next in 2 weeks. So let me summarize here. There's no mirror self. That's what this leads to. Absolute true consciousness. Absolute true consciousness. That's where all of these things lead to. And that's why I'm talking about this all the time. Because it's not the pursuit of the absolute true consciousness, although that is the object of my desire. The pursuit is the control of one's cells in one's brain and the connections that one makes in the brain. And the mental focus and breath adding into their body action produces the space inside the brain of perception. That's why these tools are wonderful. And take them or leave them. I'm not instructing anybody to do anything, but I can say this: that after my near-death experience, when I came back in 1980, it was in 1986 that event happened, the Kundalini awakening, I call it, but it's this selfless place of nirichara samadhi, of seedlessness, where the tools made me available. I was just watching, and I mentioned this somewhere else, the Galaxies of the Guardians of the Galaxies. I think it's maybe number 4, could be number 3, but it's the recent one where Rocket has a near-death experience, which makes it totally worth watching. But there's this scene where there's this fortress that's protected by all these layers of force field, and the Star Lord who runs this ship and this crew has a code that he adds to his computer somehow that allows the ship to penetrate the force field very slowly and pass through it. Doesn't keep them out. Somehow it cloaks them or changes their molecular structure. I don't know. They never explain it, but it goes in through this shield, and now they're inside, and they go through do 3 layers of this different force fields with 3 different codes that they add to their computer inside their rocket ship. And what I'm trying to say here is that the persistent practice of mental focus and meditation results in the thinning of the layers of the veil, the force fields. This tool allows us to go through these veils, which makes us susceptible, vulnerable, available, permeable to greater graces with a capital G. And that's what happened to me on the side of the road. I've been practicing these Kriya Yogas for 6 years at that point, and I know I had the one leg up with I came back with this extra energy, I get that, but the tool itself produced this for me. That's why I'm telling you about it, because the tools, they work, and it happened in a flash, and I realized that the wisdom, well, I realized more that any wisdom that I had wasn't my wisdom. It's the divine. I'm just a pass through. And this is a permanent, non-permanent state for me. It's permanent in that I never, even after my first near-death experience, but intensely more, and increasingly so through the practice of Kriya Yoga, meditation, I'll call it by any name you want, and also the grace mystical experiences that the Kriya Yoga made me available for, like Samuel in the temple waving the flag. Here I am, God. That's I imagine him waving a flag in the temple. This is in the Hebrew scriptures. Here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am. Notice me, notice me, notice me, notice me. And then suddenly you get noticed, and this one wave that covers all the mind stuff that shows a person distinctly that they are not their egoic self, and it's not an imagination, and it's not a contemplation, and it's not a belief, it's not an idea, it's not a concept, it's a direct personal experience of the capital S supreme self, and that leaves a residual vibration. It doesn't make me a perfect person. I'm vulnerable in lots of ways. I make tons of mistakes because there is no perfection of this anyway. The only perfection is the light itself. And I saw this, experienced this, lived this on the other side in my death, in the union state I was in, which is what I've been after all my life. And I'm telling you, or I'm not telling, I'm telling you, or pound on the pulpit. No, I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that if it's enlightenment that you want, then it's attainable through practice. Seedless samadhi is a result of the practice itself. It doesn't happen immediately. It does happen. All right. Hey, Basilia. Hey, Kelsey. Good morning. I hope that's helpful. All right. My feet are on the floor. We're going to do a little, if you're just joining us for the first time, it's super easy to meditate. The easiest way to meditate is to have a chant, a prayer from your childhood, a single word, Om, or light or something, and repeat that word over and over and over again. Let it sit on your breath like a butterfly on your palm. Ride it. You're not grasping and crushing this thing. You're riding it up and down with gentle attention, because you have to pay attention. Make sure you don't move your hand when the butterfly's in your hand, even though I'm telling you to ride it up and down, which you can actually do if you're very cautious and slow with a butterfly or a dragonfly in your hand. And you breathe into your belly. And I should say this more often, I have to unbuckle my belt and unbuckle my button so that I have a full belly expansion. I don't want to be constricted. I want to be able to control my muscular structure. So a very simple way to meditate. My hands are in this mula, and I'm wearing gloves because it's a little chilly out today. Of course, I wore gloves all summer, so it's a little chilly all summer. My feet are flat on the floor. My hands are in that mula shape with my thumbs touching. My spine is straight. If you're beginning, fill your belly. Hold, release. Out your nose, relax. Add in your chant or your prayer, your imagination, your image that you're using. Cling to those, breath and image or words. All right, it's that simple. Let's do a few ohms into your full belly, full lungs. Feel the vibration here and here and here. And then after a few of those, we'll drop into our own meditation. We have to the bottom of the hour. Let's make sure I've got my alarm on. I usually like to do 20 minutes, but I talked too long today. Let's see. Alarm. I do. I have it on. Let's make sure it's not too loud. All right. Yeah, it was. Here we go. Feet flat on the floor. I'm going to begin with Om. I'm going to move my mic away a little bit. Peace and love, everyone. Thanks for being here. Hey, Conversations with Maya. Amen. Aho. Hey, Nijan. Thanks for being here. Peace to you, Wanda, and your family. Enlightenment's not for us. Awakening's not for us. It's for everyone. 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 Everywhere. Peace and love, everybody. See you soon.